Live and direct from Kunst Museum, Liechtenstein, it's TEDxVaduz 2013. Radically open.
Hi, so I'm Emily, and I'm a brand consultant, and I'm a part of K-Hole, which is a trend forecasting group that looks at advanced consumer behavior. And today, I'm talking about luxury branding. The reason I thought of doing that is because we're in Liechtenstein, and actually one of the companies I work for branded Liechtenstein. I didn't have anything to do with it, but it made me think about what it meant to be a luxury brand, because of course, Liechtenstein, a big part of its identity is affluence. Another reason why I wanted to talk about luxury branding is money. It's a giant, giant market force. It's about 217 billion euros last year in the luxury market. Google made $37.4 billion in revenue, and LVMH, the biggest luxury company, made $39.4. At the same time, talking about luxury is kind of like a bad taste thing to do. People don't really like to talk about it. It makes people feel pretty uncomfortable. And as a part of K-Hole in particular, one of the things we like to talk about is what makes us uncomfortable about consumption. So this is an image from our most recent report that talks about how the crisis of what it means to be special and different is everybody's crisis. And this really also applies to luxury brands in particular, because they're all about being scarce, difficult to get, more authentic than other things. And at the same time, we are coming to realize that this may not necessarily be true. So we're living in an age where civilians can travel to outer space on Virgin Galactic, and Alexander Wang is available for sale for about $16 at Forever 21 the same day of the runway show. And you can rent a private island on Airbnb. This one costs $500 per night in case anybody's interested in going to Fiji. And so it's becoming very clear that mass luxury is no longer a new thing. It's sort of this current state of affairs, and it's been that way for a while. Yet there's this contradiction in terms, because how can you be luxury in the traditional sense and mass at the same time? This is from Rap Genius, which collects all of the different words in rap songs. And you can see that luxury and Nike, so luxury on one hand and a sort of really major mass brand on the other, have been sort of reversing their poles on and are kind of trending toward being converging again. So in the spirit of that convergence, my argument is that the old model of luxury, which was based on the conspicuous consumption of rare and expensive goods, is being overtaken by an emergent form of luxury, which I'm calling information-based luxury. That's all about showing how much control you have over big systems of information. So what does that have to do with an old jacket? This is an MA-1 flight jacket. It's the original one from the 50s. It was produced by the American military in response to a real technological reality of new jets that flew much higher than the other ones, so it got much colder, and were also much more cramped. So the big sort of Amelia Earhart leather jackets that they had were not comfortable. So this is the MA-1. And what's interesting about the MA-1 to me is that it's basically a fashion meme. It's something that's been retooled in tons of different contexts, high and low, pretty much continuously since it was invented. So whether you're a skinhead with a bottle that you're about to break and over someone's head and slit their throat with, or you're a model in an avant-garde Japanese runway show, you can be wearing an MA-1, and it often looks very much like every other MA-1. So it's a formula that's available to everybody. And somewhat like TEDx, you can have an MA-1 use all of its elements, whether or not you have any sort of special relationship to the origin of it, and every MA-1 looks like every other MA-1. So to me, it's a status symbol that's about not being special. And it's a status symbol that flaunts how not special it is, because it automatically, in a formulaic way, references all the other MA-1s that exist. And to me, that's an emergent form. So this is the Buzz Rickson. This is a really interesting example of this new form of luxury. It's a Japanese replica of the original military MA-1s from the 50s, but it costs about $600 or $700, and every single element of the original is sort of amped up in this hyper-specific way, becoming what the science fiction writer William Gibson called more authentic than its original, and he's written a lot about these jackets. So if you look at the seams on the side, they're crinkled, and that's because back in the day when they started making MA-1s, they didn't have the machines to sew them straight. So of course the Japanese amp this up and make it even more crinkled than the original. So this reminds me of what the scholar Bruce Robbins calls the Sweatshop Sublime, which is an appropriate thing to talk about surrounded by the Alps. This feeling, this vertiginous feeling of being on the top of the mountain and feeling conscious of the entire system of things and also conscious of your little place in it, gets translated into the Sweatshop Sublime as this moment when you have a mass-produced garment or object, whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you have this super vertiginous moment where you're aware of all of the different people and labor practices and families and factories that went into making it, and then all of a sudden it zooms back in and you're just holding a thong in Forever 21. So this oscillation between something totally banal and specific and something totally overwhelming and giant is the Sweatshop Sublime. And to me, the Sweatshop Sublime is intimately related to new forms of luxury, in part because it's kind of evil, and luxury has always been a lot about making us a little bit uncomfortable. Many hundreds of years ago, the word luxury actually just meant sexual intercourse, and it comes from the Latin root of a word that means to wrestle or strain or struggle. So there's something kind of fundamentally uncomfortable about the word luxury itself. Recently, there's been a new uncomfortable episode relating to the MA-1. So that's Kanye West, in case you didn't know. And that's his Yeezus tour jacket. And on the sleeve is a Confederate patch. And this created an enormous amount of controversy, which makes sense because why would one of the most famous black superstars in the world be wearing a Confederate patch? To me, this MA-1, specifically Kanye's, represents a great example of what the future of luxury will be. It's a completely casual, inconspicuous look in certain ways that at the same time is referencing major systems of information and power, and his ability to wear it so casually is what confers so much status on him in the first place. Basically, what Kanye's doing is stretching the reality maintenance field, and that's what branding does. It tries to figure out what's happening in our field of vision and in our feelings and sort of create a story that stretches our reality to fit it in. And to me, luxury are the things that kind of push that and distort it. But like Alan Alda says in the Woody Allen movie Crimes and Misdemeanors, it's funny if it bends, not funny if it breaks. So if you want to know more about normcore luxury, go to khole.net, and thank you so much.